My name is Seraphine Maddox, but everyone in the Phoenix solar tech scene calls me Sera. Short, bright, simple. I used to like the way it sounded. Now it just feels like the echo of someone I used to be. I'm 28 years old, living in a small, sun-bleached apartment on the east side of Phoenix, Arizona. Out here, the heat hits you like a slap every time you step outside. Thick, dry, relentless. But this city is also a playground for innovators, full of indie engineers, garage inventors, climate idealists, and people who are just stubborn enough to believe they can bend sunlight to their will. I was one of them. Every morning, I biked to Sunspire Labs, the solar tech startup where I worked as a research engineer. It wasn't fancy, a converted warehouse with mismatched LED strips and 3D printers humming in the back. But it was where my best ideas were born, and the biggest idea of my life, the one that could have changed everything, is the same one that got stolen from me. I remember the morning it happened. I walked into the lab holding my favorite oversized iced coffee, the one with so much cold foam it looked like a tiny storm cloud. The team was unusually quiet. No music, no chatter. Just a low murmuring near the presentation room. When I approached the doorway, I heard my colleague's voice. Evan Rhodes. Smug, polished, too smooth to be genuine. And as you can see, he said confidently, with this recalibrated nano-coating, we're seeing efficiency levels rise by 22% above baseline. It's a game changer. My stomach dropped. That was my number, my test, my formula, my breakthrough. I froze in the doorway. All the investors' eyes were glued to the screen, nodding, impressed. Evan clicked through my slides. Slides I had created at 2 in the morning, my hair in a messy bun, my laptop overheating on my legs. I stepped inside. Evan! My voice came out quieter than I meant. What are you doing? He didn't even flinch, didn't even look embarrassed. Instead, he turned slightly, smiling like a movie villain who thinks he's about to win. Oh, Sera. Perfect timing. He gestured toward the screen. I was just walking everyone through our latest breakthrough. Our. That word cut deeper than the desert sun. I looked at the lead investor, a silver-haired woman named Vanessa Cruz, and forced my voice to stay steady. Actually, that breakthrough is, Evan cut in smoothly, the result of months of team collaboration, and Sera here was just helping with some of the early tests. A soft laugh rippled through the room. Helping? Early tests? I stared at him, stunned. My throat tightened, heat spreading up my jaw. He knew exactly what he was doing. And the worst part, the investors believed him. Why wouldn't they? Evan was the charismatic one, the pitchman, the guy who somehow managed to look freshly showered even after an all-nighter. Me? I was the girl who preferred data over people. The girl who scribbled equations on napkins during lunch breaks. The girl who believed the work would speak louder than the person presenting it. I was wrong. After the presentation, I cornered him near the back hallway. The smell of solder and hot plastic drifted between us. Why did you do that? I whispered, my hands trembling. Evan shrugged, not even pretending to feel guilty. You take too long to publish, he said. You get lost in perfection. Investors want results, not rewrites. That doesn't give you the right to steal my work. He raised an eyebrow. Steal is a strong word. It's the correct word. He leaned in a little, lowering his voice. Look, Sera. Be realistic. Who do you think they'd trust with a breakthrough like this? You? Or me? For one sharp second, I thought I might slap him. Instead, I walked away before my emotions spilled over. The emotional impact hit me hardest that night. I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, ceiling fan clicking like it was keeping time with my thoughts. My laptop sat open in front of me, the data files glowing like ghosts of everything I'd poured into them. Anger burned in my chest, pulsing hotter with every memory. The late nights, the discarded prototypes, the moments I doubted myself but pushed anyway. All of it, handed to a man who saw an opportunity and took it without hesitation. But beneath the anger was something worse. Doubt. What if he was right? What if I wasn't the one they would trust? What if brilliance didn't matter if someone else could present it better? I hated that those questions lived in my head. I hated even more that part of me believed them. I covered my face with my hands and tried to breathe, but my chest felt tight, like someone was pressing a heavy panel right against my ribs. Was this what betrayal felt like? Heavy, quiet, suffocating? For a long time, I just sat there, letting the fear and pain twist inside me. And then, something unexpected happened. A spark. Small, fragile, but real. A quiet voice in the back of my mind whispered, "You know the truth. You have the data. You have the timestamps. You have the proof. He may have stolen your spotlight, but he can't steal your work." My eyes opened, and for the first time since the presentation, my breath steadied. Maybe I wasn't done after all. Maybe this was just the beginning. I clicked open the folder labeled Project Helion MK3, my breakthrough, and stared at the files like they were lifelines. If Evan wanted to claim my discovery, I would show the world the truth myself. But first, I needed a plan, and it started with one terrifying, risky move. Tomorrow, I would... The sound of a notification ping snapped me out of my thoughts. I looked down at my phone. It was an email from an anonymous sender. Subject line, "You're being set up." My heartbeat stuttered. I opened it. One sentence. "Check what Evan is presenting tomorrow morning." I stared at the screen, chills running down my spine. What the hell was he planning now? I barely slept that night. The anonymous email looped through my mind like a glitching notification. "You're being set up. Check what Evan is presenting tomorrow morning." By sunrise, my nerves were stretched thin enough to snap. I grabbed my backpack, threw my hair into a messy ponytail, and biked to Sunspire Labs, so fast my tires kicked up dust from the road. Phoenix was already blazing at 8 a.m. The sky looked like it had been ironed flat, colorless and hot. Even the wind felt angry. When I reached the lab, the parking lot was packed. More cars than usual. Investor cars, press cars, cars that did not belong to a small indie lab. My stomach knotted. I locked my bike and rushed inside. The presentation room door was half open, and voices leaked out. Excited, murmuring, anticipatory voices. I slipped in quietly and stood at the back. Evan was already at the front, wearing a perfectly ironed navy shirt and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. On the wall-sized monitor behind him was a title slide. Helion MK, Prototype Demo. Lead Innovator, Evan Rhodes. My heart dropped. MKV? I didn't make an MKV. I barely finished the MK3. He had taken my breakthrough and built a fake, polished, next version on top of it. Vanessa Cruz, the lead investor, sat in the front row. Journalists typed rapidly on laptops. Engineers from competitor companies whispered to their neighbors. Evan cleared his throat theatrically. "Thank you all for coming. Today, I'm excited to reveal the next stage in high-efficiency solar nano-coating technology. This advancement is not just significant, it's revolutionary." I clenched my jaw. He clicked to the next slide. My formulas appeared, my graphs, my projected simulations. I felt my fingernails dig into my palms so hard it hurt. "He's trying to bury you," the anonymous email whispered in my mind, and he was doing it in front of witnesses, press, investors, competitors. If he announced an MK4 breakthrough today, the narrative would solidify. He was the innovator, and I was a footnote. I had to do something. But what? Stand up in front of everyone and shout he was a fraud? Storm the stage and grab the clicker out of his hand? My breath quickened. No, not yet. I needed to understand his game first. I watched the next slide load, and that's when everything inside me froze, because on the screen was a prototype test result. A datasheet claiming the MK4 nano-coating maintained 29% efficiency increase at high temperatures. 29%. An impossible number. Not impossible for me. Impossible for anyone. Physics wouldn't allow it. You'd have to break heat loss equations to even pretend that number was real. He was not just stealing, he was fabricating. My pulse hammered in my ears. What Evan was doing wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. He was committing scientific fraud on a public stage, and if someone traced the formulas back to me, if they thought I had doctored them, my career would be ruined, permanently. Suddenly, the anonymous email made sense. This wasn't just theft, this was a setup. I swallowed hard, fear clawing at my throat. At the front, Vanessa raised her hand. This is extraordinary, Evan. But do you have the raw data for the MK4 runs? I'd like to see the thermal degradation curves. Evan hesitated. Just for a second. A tiny flicker. Barely noticeable. But I saw it. He didn't have the curves. Because they didn't exist. I'll share them soon, he said smoothly, as we finalized the last few test cycles. Vanessa nodded, but I could sense her skepticism. Good. I scanned the room, trying to find an ally. Someone who might believe me. Someone I could approach discreetly. Then I noticed her, the only person in the room not looking impressed. A woman in her mid-30s, with dark, curly hair pulled into a low bun, wearing a loose linen shirt and thick-framed glasses. She wasn't typing. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't clapping. She was observing, analyzing. Her press badge read, Maya Lopez, Eco Frontline Investigations, an eco-journalist. I'd heard of her. She was known for exposing greenwashing, fraudulent patents, and corrupt climate startups. My heart lifted for the first time that morning. Maybe she was the reason someone sent me that email. Maybe she already sensed something was off. Evan wrapped up his pitch with his favorite brand of theatrical confidence. With investors like you, we can move toward mass production in under a year. Sunspire is ready to lead the solar revolution. The room clapped, but the applause felt shallow. As people began standing, I slipped forward, weaving through the crowd until I was a few feet behind Maya. Maya? I whispered. She turned, studied me for a moment, then nodded slightly. Seraphine Maddox. My breath caught. You know who I am? She closed her notebook calmly. Someone emailed me about you last night. My pulse jumped. It wasn't you? I asked. She shook her head. No, but I was told to watch today's presentation carefully. Her eyes flicked toward the projector. And now I can see why. Before I could respond, Evan's voice cut across the room like a blade. Sera, I turned. He was standing just a few feet away, smile tight, eyes sharp. Can I talk to you privately? The crowd was still bustling around us, packing up, handing out business cards, clustering in small conversation circles. Maya stepped slightly closer to me, sensing tension. Evan's smile widened, but his jaw ticked. Now, Sera, I exhaled slowly. Fine. He led me into a side hallway, cool, dim, and empty. The door clicked shut behind us. Then his voice dropped, icy and venomous. Don't you dare interfere. I stared at him. You're fabricating data. I'm doing what needs to be done. You're lying to investors, to the press. You're risking criminal charges. He stepped closer, face inches from mine. No, Sera, I'm building a future. You're the one in the way. My skin prickled with fear. And just so you know, he said softly, if your name gets dragged into this, no one will believe you weren't involved. Your files were on the network. Your timestamps can be manipulated. Your digital footprints. Very easy to blur. My blood ran cold. He leaned back, satisfied. You have two options. Stay quiet and keep your job, or speak up and lose everything. He walked past me, brushing my shoulder. And trust me, people like you don't recover from scandals. The words hit like a punch, but even as I stood there, shaken, something inside me shifted. His threat didn't silence me. It ignited me. He wanted me cornered, helpless, afraid. But I wasn't any of those things. Not anymore. I walked back toward the main room with my pulse steadying. Maya stood waiting, and when our eyes met, she asked one quiet question. Do you want to expose him? I took a breath. Deep, grounding, certain. Yes. Her lips curved into the faintest, knowing smile. Good. Then we start tonight. I didn't go back to Sunspire after Evan's threat. Not that day. Not with my hands still shaking and the taste of fear metallic in my mouth. Instead, Maya drove us to a quiet cafe a few blocks away, a place with dim lights, mismatched chairs, and a humming ceiling fan that barely pushed the hot air around. We sat in the farthest corner, away from windows, away from wandering eyes. I wrapped my fingers around a glass of cold water, trying to steady my pulse. Maya set her notebook on the table. "Tell me everything," she said softly. So I did. I told her about the MK3 breakthrough, the late nights, the experimental nano-coating formula I had spent months refining, the moment I caught Evan presenting my slides, the hallway threat, the anonymous email. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She only listened, her eyes sharp and focused like she was assembling a puzzle as I spoke. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. "Okay," she said. "Then here's what we know. Evan is committing fraud. He's already trying to erase you from the narrative, and he's preparing a scapegoat report to accuse you of data tampering." I swallowed hard. Hearing it from someone else made it feel even more real. Maya leaned forward. "The question is, do you want to defend yourself quietly or expose him publicly?" I didn't answer right away. The old version of me, the quiet engineer who believed hard work would speak for itself, might have chosen the first option. She might have hoped people would eventually see the truth. But that version of me died in the hallway when Evan told me I would never recover. "I'm done being quiet," I said. My voice was steady. "I want people to know what he's doing. I want proof. Real proof." Maya nodded once, like she'd been waiting for that answer. "Then you'll need help," she said. "And I know exactly who to bring in." She stood up without another word and walked toward the cafe entrance. A minute later, she returned with a man carrying a rugged-looking laptop bag. He looked young, mid-20s maybe, but he had the intense, wired energy of someone who lived inside digital systems more than the real world. "Sera," Maya said. "This is Jonah, best digital forensics specialist I know." He gave me a quick nod. "Nice to meet you. Heard you're dealing with a grade-A tech narcissist." "That's one way to describe Evan," I muttered. Jonah sat, pulling out a sleek laptop covered in stickers. "First things first," he said, typing fast. "We need to talk about the logs. If Evan altered timestamps, overwritten entries, or used admin permissions, there will be traces." I blinked. "You can recover that?" A grin tugged at his mouth. "I can recover what he doesn't even know he changed." He clicked a few keys. A cascade of code scrolled across the screen. "Do you still have your local MK3 data?" he asked. "Yes, and backups." "Perfect. I'll cross-reference them with Sunspire's network mirrors. Any inconsistency will pop out like a broken tooth." My shoulders loosened, just slightly. Maya leaned back in her chair, watching Jonah work. "We'll need more than logs," she said. "We need documents, emails, meeting recordings, anything that shows Evan built MKU4 on top of your work while trying to erase your authorship." "I can gather those," I said, "but I'll need access to the lab." Maya raised a brow. "Tonight?" I hesitated. The idea of sneaking back into Sunspire made my pulse spike. But waiting meant giving Evan more time to cover his tracks. "Yes," I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. Jonah closed his laptop. "Before that, I need something else from you." I sat up straighter. "What?" He extended a small flash drive. "This has a forensic logging tool. Plug it into any Sunspire machine you touch. It copies hidden metadata and preserves evidence, even if Evan tries to delete things after." The weight of the tiny drive felt heavier than it should. Maya placed her hand over mine gently. "If we do this, Sera, we do it carefully. Evan is dangerous when cornered." "I know," I said quietly, "but he already cornered me." We spent the next hour planning, not a dramatic heist, not a reckless mission, just a focused, strategic retrieval of the truth. What files I needed, which terminals to access, which folders Evan would likely hide things in, what Jonah needed to build an airtight digital trail. By the time we finished, night had settled over Phoenix, dropping the temperature from oven to still hot, but survivable. Maya closed her notebook. "All right," she said quietly. "Let's go." Phoenix at night has its own kind of glow. Streetlights shimmered on the asphalt. Warm air drifted through cracked windows. The city hummed with the restless energy of people still awake under the desert sky. Maya drove us towards Sunspire. I sat in the passenger seat, clutching the flash drive, rehearsing the plan in my head. My fear was still there, tight, buzzing, sharp. But something else sat beside it now. Resolve. Sunspire's warehouse came into view, its rooftop solar panels reflecting faint moonlight. A handful of lights glowed inside. Late-night staff, maybe. Maya circled the block once before parking behind a row of brittle desert shrubs. "You're sure you're ready?" she asked. I swallowed. "Yes." We walked to the side entrance. My entrance, the one employees used after hours. I pulled out my keycard. My hand trembled slightly as I held it to the scanner. The green light flashed. The door clicked open. I exhaled slowly. Inside, the air was cool, humming with the sound of machines resting. Together, quietly, we moved down the hallway, past the workstations where I'd built prototypes, past the lab benches where I'd burned my hands on overheated test materials, past the walls covered in whiteboards filled with equations only two people truly understood: me and the man who stole them. We reached the data room. I pulled the door handle and stopped. A light was already on. Maya's hand clamped around my arm. Someone was inside. A silhouette moved behind the server tower. My breath caught in my throat. Maya whispered, "Who is that?" But I already knew. My voice came out in a harsh whisper. "Evan." And in that moment, heart pounding, fear slicing through me, I understood one terrifying truth. He wasn't just covering his tracks. He was finishing the trap he'd set for me, and we were walking right into it. By the time Maya and I left Sunspire, the sun outside was slipping lower, casting Phoenix in a molten orange glow. The heat wasn't just physical anymore. It lived under my skin. Anger, adrenaline, fear, determination, everything boiling together. We drove to a small eco-journalism hub downtown, a renovated desert loft filled with plants, recycled wood desks, and humming laptops. As soon as we stepped in, Maya waved to a young, sharp-looking man wearing headphones. "That's Jonah, our data forensics guy," she said quietly. "If someone tried to alter network logs or falsify timestamps, he'll find it." Jonah looked barely older than 25, with chaotic curls and a hoodie that said, "Data is my love language." When he spotted us, he pulled off his headphones. "You the scientist being screwed over?" he asked, not unkindly. I blinked. "That's one way to put it." "Good," he said, typing rapidly. "I already pulled Sunspire's public-facing network metadata, but if you can give me your local copies, I can cross-match anomalies." I opened my backpack and handed him my external drive, the one I guarded like it contained my soul. Maya watched carefully, making sure nothing left the table without my permission. While Jonah began analyzing, Maya motioned for me to sit across from her. She leaned forward, hands clasped. "Before this goes any further, I need to know something. How far are you willing to go to expose Evan?" I inhaled slowly. "I want the truth out. Completely, publicly, permanently. Even if Sunspire itself collapses?" My throat tightened. Sunspire wasn't just a job. It was the place where I'd poured years of my life, where I still had friends who didn't deserve the fallout. But then I remembered Evan threatening me in that hallway, telling me I'd never recover from the scandal he planned to pin on me. "I don't want innocent people hurt," I said honestly. "But Evan doesn't get to destroy me and walk away clean." Maya nodded, satisfied with the honesty. Then we're aligned. Jonah spun his chair toward us an hour later, expression serious. I found something, he said. And it's bad. My stomach dropped. Bad for who? Evan. Relief and dread collided inside me. Jonah opened several windows on his screen. Layers of log files, message traces, internal server snapshots. Sunspire uses a hybrid local cloud sync, he explained. So when someone alters a file on one side, tiny inconsistencies show up in the replication metadata. He pointed to a highlighted block of text. These mismatched offsets. They're proof someone modified Helion project timestamps after the fact. My pulse quickened. Can you prove they were altered by Evan? Jonah grinned sharply. Oh, absolutely. He forgot one thing. Network admin tools track who uses elevated permissions. And Evan used elevated permissions at 2:13 a.m. 2 nights ago. I swallowed. That's when MK Fool magically appeared, Maya murmured. Jonah clicked another window. And it gets better. I found drafts of a report he wrote to frame you. My entire body went cold. What? It's not finished. But he's building a case that you manipulated the efficiency data, and he was the one who discovered the inconsistencies. My throat dried. He was planning to destroy me. Officially, professionally, comprehensively. Maya leaned back, her eyes darkening with anger. This is bigger than a rivalry. This is premeditated fraud with malicious intent. I know, I whispered. And he's good at making people believe him. Maybe, she said, but he's not smarter than digital evidence. Jonah turned to me. If you want to expose him, I can recover every tampered log, but we'll need more. Screenshots, internal emails, his MK Vol presentation deck, anything you can access. I nodded, heart pounding. I can get those. Maya raised a brow. Tonight? I hesitated only a second. Yes. Night fell over Phoenix like someone had dimmed the world. Maya drove me back toward the lab. We parked 2 blocks away in a shadowed alley behind a row of desert sage bushes swaying in the warm wind. I pulled up my hood and tightened my backpack straps. You sure you're ready for this? She asked quietly. No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. We slipped toward the lab. A few lights were still on inside. Late-night engineers working on unrelated projects. Sunspire never really slept. My keycard beeped softly as I swiped it. I exhaled in relief when the door unlocked. Inside, the corridor was cold, filled with the faint scent of solder and ozone. My footsteps echoed softly across the polished concrete. We moved quickly. I passed familiar workstations, the prototype printer room, the battery testing alcove, the solar simulator chamber, each one stirring memories of long nights and impossible calculations. Finally, we reached the data room. I unlocked the door and froze. A light was already on. A shadow shifted inside. Someone was there. Maya grabbed my arm, pulling me back behind the doorframe, both of us holding our breath. A moment later, the figure stepped into view, and my blood ran cold. Evan. He was standing in front of the server tower, typing quickly, his expression tense. What is he doing? Maya whispered. He's covering his tracks, I whispered back. Or finishing the setup. Before I could think, before I could stop myself, I stepped into the doorway. Evan? He jerked violently, whipping around. Sera. His face twisted. What the hell are you doing here? I could ask you the same. His eyes flicked behind me, narrowing. Who's here with you? No one. That was a lie, but Maya stayed hidden. Evan stepped forward, hands curling into fists. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be tampering with data. He laughed, sharp and mocking. Sera, stop. You're in way over your head. No, I said quietly. You are. For the briefest second, uncertainty flashed in his eyes. Then he lunged for the server terminal. Maya reacted first, stomping forward, slamming the emergency power cutoff on the wall. The entire server rack shut down with a metallic hum. Evan spun around, furious. What did you do? Maya stepped beside me, calm and unshaken. Securing evidence. His mouth dropped. You brought journalists into the lab? I lifted my chin. You brought fraud into it. The words hit him harder than a shove. And then something in his face cracked, anger twisting into desperation. You're making a mistake, Sera, he snarled. A big one. No, I said, feeling my pulse steady. You made the mistake. He took a step toward me. But Maya raised her phone, already recording. Evan froze. She said evenly, We have your logs, your altered timestamps, your fabricated MK feed data, and every word you say right now is being documented. His jaw worked silently, and then, without another word, he bolted past us and ran down the hallway. I turned to Maya, breath shaking. What now? She pocketed her phone. Now? She said. We take everything Jonah needs. And we finish this. The moment Evan ran out of the data room, the silence that followed felt heavier than the entire server rack behind us. For a few seconds, Maya and I didn't move. We just stood there, listening to the distant sound of his footsteps fading down the hallway like a warning. Maya exhaled first. All right, she said. He's panicking. That's good for us. Good for us. Maybe. But my pulse was still thundering, my hands shaking as if they were remembering the way he'd stared at me. Cold, desperate, cornered. Come on, Maya said, squeezing my arm. We don't have long. The moment he regains his nerve, he'll either call security or come back with a story. We hurried into the data room fully this time. The servers stood in the dim emergency lighting, blinking faintly like tired eyes. The room smelled faintly of burnt dust from the power cutoff. My heart hammered harder with every step. Where do we start? I whispered. Here. Maya pointed to the main terminal, the one Evan was working on before we interrupted him. Whatever he was doing last is the most dangerous. We need to see what he tried to alter. I sat down quickly, plugging Jonah's forensic flash drive into the USB port. The screen flickered, then loaded Jonah's logging interface, lines of code crawling like a digital heartbeat. My hands started typing almost automatically. Commands, queries, directory pulls. I knew Sunspire's data architecture better than I knew my own apartment floor plan. That familiarity guided me through the maze of files, even as fear pulsed under my skin. Maya hovered behind my shoulder, alert, watching the hallway for movement. Find anything? She asked softly. Yes, I whispered, and it's bad. On the screen appeared a folder titled Personnel, Incident Draft, Maddox. Inside, half-written reports, falsified claims, manipulated graphs, all designed to make me look guilty. My throat tightened. He was almost finished, I said. This would have ruined me. Maya leaned over, taking a photo of the file structure. We need everything. Keep going. I clicked deeper into the MK4 folder, and that's where we found the real bombshell. Here, I said, pointing. Sim results, MKIV fabricated graph forge tool, synthetic heat curve, efficiency masking script. Maya's eyebrows shot up. He wasn't even being subtle. He didn't need to be subtle. I murmured bitterly. He thought no one would ever check. I extracted everything onto the forensic drive. Every file, every script, every falsified report draft. It felt like lifting bricks off my chest, one by one, replacing fear with something sharper, purpose. As the progress bar filled, I whispered, almost to myself, he was going to destroy me. Maya placed a steady hand on my shoulder. Not anymore. The drive finished. I ejected it, heart racing. All right, Maya said. We have what we need. Let's get out before... Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. We both froze, but it wasn't Evan. A security guard rounded the corner. He frowned when he saw us. Evening. I wasn't told anyone was still working. My stomach tightened. If he called Evan, or worse, logged this, it could sabotage everything. Maya stepped forward smoothly, professional smile in place. Sorry for the confusion. I'm with Eco Frontline Investigations, she said, flashing her press badge. We're conducting a scheduled interview with Miss Maddox about Sunspire's innovation practices. The guard blinked. Oh, really? At this hour? Maya didn't miss a beat. Night shift scientists are often the most candid. Less pressure, fewer eyes. He nodded slowly, as if she'd just explained a profound truth. Well, all right then. Just make sure you check out when you leave. We will, Maya said warmly. He walked past, completely unaware of the storm swirling around him. When he disappeared around the corner, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Holy shit, I whispered. Maya smirked. You're welcome. We slipped out of Sunspire as quietly as we came. The desert air outside felt like a blast against my skin. Hot, dry, but somehow cleaner than the recycled AC inside the lab. We hurried to the car, neither of us speaking until we were moving again. When we were a safe distance away, I finally asked, "What happens now?" Maya drummed her fingers on the steering wheel. Now, we verify everything with Jonah, we compile evidence, and then... Her eyes flicked toward me. We decide how public to make this. Public, I said instantly, all the way. Maya smiled. I figured you'd say that. My phone buzzed suddenly. A message from an unknown number. My stomach clenched. I opened it. He knows you were in the lab. Leave Sunspire tonight. You're not safe. My skin prickled. Maya glanced at me. Everything okay? I showed her the messages. She read them, her jaw tightening. Your anonymous source again. They're watching Evan more closely than we are. Do you think it's someone inside Sunspire? I asked, voice trembling. Maybe, she said. Or someone who knows Evan's pattern. What does that mean? Maya hesitated before answering. When people commit fraud at this scale, it usually isn't their first time. A cold wave washed through me. Evan had done this before? Before I could speak, my phone buzzed again. Another message. He's going to frame you publicly in the morning. You have less than 12 hours. My chest tightened. He wasn't waiting. He wasn't hesitating. He was moving fast. Maya floored the accelerator. Then we moved faster. When we reached the eco-journalism office, Jonah was still there, surrounded by empty coffee cups and screens crammed with code. He stood quickly when he saw us. You got it? He asked. Maya handed him the drive. Everything he tried to hide. Jonah plugged it in. His eyes widened as lines of evidence appeared. Oh, this is gold, he whispered. He's screwed. I sank into a chair, exhaustion crashing through me. What do we do with all of this? I asked softly. Jonah didn't look up from the screen. We build a digital autopsy, he said. We reconstruct every lie he told, and then we release it in one impossible-to-refute package. Maya crossed her arms. And we publish before he launches his attack. I looked between them, between the glowing screens, between the mounting evidence. And for the first time since this nightmare began, hope didn't feel fragile. It felt like armor, but something still gnawed at me. Who sent me those messages? I whispered. Who's helping us? Maya and Jonah exchanged glances. We'll find out, Maya said. But first, we take Evan down. She pulled out a fresh notebook, flipped to a blank page, and wrote 4 words across the top in bold ink. Operation Exposure, 12 hours. My pulse quickened. The countdown had begun. The clock on the wall read 10:42 p.m., less than 12 hours until Evan's planned public strike. Jonah's keyboard clicked rapidly, filling the dim eco-journalism office with an electric tension. Maya stood beside him, flipping through printouts, cross-checking timestamps, connecting digital threads like she was stitching together a crime scene. I sat at the edge of the table, hands clasped so tightly my knuckles ached. 12 hours. 12 hours until Evan tried to destroy my career, my name, my entire identity. How much have we reconstructed? I asked quietly. Jonah pushed his glasses up his nose. Enough to prove fraud, not enough to bury him. So what do we still need? He spun his screen toward us. A digital timeline glowed across the monitor. MK3 tests. Evan accessing admin privileges. Fabricated MK fee simulations. The fake personnel report. All connected, but not airtight. We need 2 more things, Jonah said. 1. The complete MK fee presentation file, the one Evan used today. And 2. A direct link between him and the file alterations. He was in the data room tonight? I said. Isn't that enough? Jonah shook his head. Circumstantial. If he claims he was securing files or prepping for tomorrow, it becomes he said, she said. Maya crossed her arms. We need something irrefutable, something showing intent. Jonah nodded. An email, a voice message, a private memo. Anything he wrote that exposes his plan. My stomach tightened. Evan was meticulous, calculating. He wouldn't leave obvious trails, but arrogance. Arrogance always left shadows. Could it be on his work computer? I asked. Maybe, Jonah said, but we'd need access. That means going back to Sunspire, Maya added. A chill spread through me. Tonight had already been dangerous. Going back again, especially after Evan realized I'd been in the data room, could be reckless. But the alternative? Letting him destroy me tomorrow morning? No, not an option. I straightened. I'll go. Maya shook her head immediately. Not alone. Jonah raised a hand. Before anyone breaks into anything again, I should tell you, there might be an easier way. We both looked at him. He tapped his screen. Sunspire's system uses remote snapshots. If Evan's account synced to the cloud even once after he modified files, I can try pulling a ghost image of his desktop. A ghost image? I repeated. It's like a digital shadow, Jonah said. Not perfect, but sometimes old versions leave imprints in the cloud. A stray copy, an uncompressed thumbnail, cached metadata. Can you access it? Maya asked. Jonah cracked his knuckles. Only one way to find out. While Jonah worked, I paced the length of the office. My nerves felt shredded. Every step echoed questions. What if we fail? What if Evan gets ahead of us? What if tomorrow ruins everything I ever built? But mixed with fear was something else. A spark. A new version of myself. Less afraid, more awake. Maya finally put a hand on my back. You're doing incredibly well, she said softly. I don't feel like it. Courage never feels like courage when you're in the middle of it. I exhaled shakily. Why are you helping me this much? I asked. You don't even know me. Maya looked thoughtful. I've seen people like Evan before. People who take credit for others' work. People who manipulate evidence and destroy careers. Most victims stay silent. But you... She nodded at me. You're fighting back. And that matters. Before I could respond, Jonah suddenly froze. Guys? We rushed to his side. On the screen was a partially recovered cache folder. Ghost thumbnails, fragmented screenshots, half-loaded documents. And then a file appeared. Jonah clicked it open. A video recording. Evan's face filled the frame. He looked tired, irritated, like he was recording a message for himself. The audio crackled. If she gets in the way, we blame the MK3 errors on her. Investors trust me, not her. Keep the story clean. My breath caught. Then another clip autoplayed. Present MK4 as complete. Fabricate heat loss curve. Maddox won't publish anything in time. My jaw dropped. Clip after clip loaded. Short, fragmented, unfiltered. All proof of intent. All his own voice. Maya whispered, Holy. Sera, this is it? Jonah nearly vibrated with excitement. He must have recorded voice memos to organize his notes before deleting them. The cloud kept cached fragments. My eyes burned with sudden, overwhelming emotion. Relief, validation, rage, all twisting together. We have him, I whispered. For real, Jonah agreed. Maya leaned closer. We still need the full MK fee deck. That's the last piece. Jonah nodded. On it. He typed rapidly. A minute later, a file thumbnail appeared. Helion MKIV Final per TX. He double-clicked. Slide after slide loaded. Charts. Fabricated simulations. Fake lab results. False author credits. And on the second to last slide, a signature block. Lead innovator, Evan Rhodes. Supporting research assistant, S. Maddox. My stomach twisted. Supporting assistant, I muttered. Unbelievable. Maya snapped photos, scanned timestamps, documented everything. Jonah copied all recovered files into a secured folder. "This is enough to destroy him," he said. "Not just his presentation tomorrow, his whole career." A strange quiet fell over me. I didn't want to destroy him. I wanted the truth. But the truth would destroy him. Maya studied my expression. "If you're having doubts, you need to say it now." I shook my head. "I'm not doubting. I'm realizing the cost. Sunspire might go down with him." "Sunspire isn't your responsibility," Maya said sternly. "You didn't commit fraud. He did." I nodded, but guilt still tugged at me. Jonah closed his laptop with a decisive click. "Everything's ready," he said. "I'll spend the next few hours packaging the evidence into one clean, transparent report." "What about publishing?" I asked. Maya held up her phone. "That's where I come in. I'll prepare the article. We'll coordinate a multi-platform release. Eco Frontline, social channels, investor groups, academic circles." "And me?" I asked. "You," she said, "will record a statement. Your story. Your voice. The truth." My heart thudded. I imagined the world hearing it. My colleagues, my friends, investors, Evan. It terrified me, but it also felt right. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll do it." Maya smiled. "Good. But first, you need to rest. Sunrise is only a few hours away, and tomorrow morning will be war." Jonah glanced at the clock. 2:13 a.m. Ironically, the same time Evan had forged the MK4 files 2 nights earlier. Maya grabbed her notebook, ripping out a page. She slid it to me. A simple line. "We release everything at 9 watts a.m. My pulse quickened. In 7 hours, the truth would be free. In 7 hours, everything would change. And as I stared at the paper, I felt something inside me shift. Not fear, not doubt, but strength. A version of myself I'd spent years burying, finally rising. I didn't sleep. Maya insisted I rest, but resting was impossible. My mind was a circuit board overloaded with electricity, sparking, looping, short-circuiting. I lay on the worn-out couch in Eco Frontline's back office, staring at the ceiling fan blades turning overhead, feeling each breath stick in my chest. Every few minutes, I glanced at the clock. 3:10 a.m., 3:35 a.m., 4:02 a.m. The night crawled. At some point, Maya brought me coffee, placed a blanket over my legs, and disappeared again. Jonah never stopped typing, not once. The frantic rhythm of his keyboard tapped through the room, the sound of a digital battle I couldn't fight myself. Around 5:50 a.m., I finally stood up. My legs were shaky, but my focus sharpened. Today was the day. Today, Evan would launch his attack. And today, we would crush it before it left the ground. Maya looked up from her desk as I approached. "You okay?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm ready." "Good." She slid a small recording mic across the table. "Because it's time for your statement." My pulse stumbled. Right now? Before the release," she said. "Your voice is what will make this undeniable. The evidence proves the fraud, but your experience, your story, makes people care." Jonah wheeled over in his chair, sipping an energy drink like it was oxygen. I already prepped the audio filters. "Just speak naturally. You don't have to sound heroic. Just honest." I swallowed, throat tight. I wasn't used to speaking publicly. I wasn't used to speaking at all, honestly. My work had always been my voice, but this time it had to be me. Maya stepped closer, gently adjusting the mic pin on my collar. "Whenever you're ready." I closed my eyes, thought about the lab, the nights I spent alone with glowing data, the moment I walked in and saw Evan presenting my work, the panic in the hallway, the humiliation, the fury, the anonymous warning, the trap. the decision to fight. And then I began speaking. My voice trembled at first, but steadied as the truth spilled out, raw and unfiltered. My name is Seraphine Maddox. I am an engineer, and for the last 2 years, I dedicated my life to a project called Helion. I talked for nearly 10 minutes. When I finished, my hands were shaking, but my breathing was steady. Maya squeezed my shoulder. That was perfect. Jonah saved the file instantly, adding it to the release package. What time is it? I asked. 6:43 a.m., Maya said. 2 hours and 17 minutes left. At 7:15 a.m., Jonah received something unexpected. He frowned at his screen. That's weird. What is? I asked. I'm seeing unusual activity on Sunspire's internal channels. Maya moved behind him. Define unusual. Investors being CC'd on last-minute emails. Evan pushing a morning press call. And, wait, his eyes widened. He sent out a preliminary accusation packet. My stomach dropped. Already? Yeah. He's moving earlier than we expected. Maya cursed softly under her breath. He knows he's losing control. Jonah clicked furiously. He sent it to 2 investor groups, 3 board members, and a PR firm. Did he include my name? I whispered. Jonah nodded grimly. Yes. He's framing you as the root of the MK3 instability and claiming your miscalculations forced him to redesign MK4 on an emergency timeline. My entire body went cold. He really was going to burn the company just to take me down. Maya straightened. Then we release early. Jonah nodded decisively. Drop at 8 a.m.? But that's... In 45 minutes, he finished. My heart pounded. I wasn't sure I was ready. But ready didn't matter anymore. Survival did. Maya squeezed my arm. This is happening, and you're not doing it alone. The next 45 minutes moved like a storm. Maya crafted the headline. Exclusive investigation. Fraud inside Sunspire Labs. Engineers' work. Stolen. Data falsified. Evidence hidden. Jonah created a digital portfolio of evidence. Timestamps, logs, recovered voice memos, falsified graphs, Evan's MK4 deck, altered scripts. He arranged them in chronological clarity, simple, unarguable, and at the center of the page was my recorded statement. I stared at my own name typed in bold. Statement from Seraphine Maddox, engineer and Helion lead researcher. My throat tightened. This feels real now, I whispered. It is real, Maya said gently. And this is how we take back your life. At 7:59 a.m., Jonah placed his fingers over the keyboard. Maya glanced at me. Ready? I inhaled. Fear pulsed. Resolve rose. My voice came out steady. Do it! 8 a.m. Publish. Jonah hit enter. The page went live. Eco Frontline posted. Social channels auto-launched. Investor networks received the link. Press mailing lists pinged. A dozen automated systems blasted the story into the world. For 2 seconds, the room stayed silent. Then Jonah's screens lit up like fireworks. Holy whoa, it's blowing up already. Maya leaned over him. Share counts? Hundreds within the first minute. And, wait. He scrolled. Oh my God. People inside Sunspire are forwarding it. My pulse raced. Jonah flipped open another window. Comments are flooding in. Scientists, engineers, former colleagues, even people from other companies. Maya's phone buzzed non-stop. This story is catching fire, she said. People are recognizing the falsified MK4 data. They're calling it an impossible claim. Jonah pointed at the screen, almost laughing. And look, Sunspire's board members just opened the packet. My breath shook out of me. It's happening. And then, a notification window popped up on Jonah's screen, an email from an anonymous sender, the same unknown person who had warned me before. Jonah clicked it open. It contained only 5 words. He's heading to the lab. My blood turned to ice. Maya looked at me sharply. He knows we exposed him. Jonah stood up. He's going to try wiping evidence physically, maybe crash the servers. My heart hammered. What do we do? Maya grabbed her keys. We go, now. I froze. To the lab? While he's there? She nodded. He's dangerous, but he's panicking, and panicking people make mistakes. And mistakes mean, Jonah said. More evidence, Maya finished. I swallowed hard. Everything in me screamed to stay away. But the truth? This fight was mine. My name, my work, my future. I'm coming, I said. Maya opened the door. Then let's end this. We ran out into the rising desert heat, towards Sunspire, toward the man who tried to ruin me, toward the firestorm we had just unleashed. And part of me, terrified, trembling, furious, felt more alive than I ever had. The desert sun was barely rising, but the heat already felt sharp enough to cut through my clothes as we sped toward Sunspire. Maya drove faster than I'd ever seen her drive, calculated, focused, every turn tight and precise. Jonah sat in the back seat with his laptop open, watching network activity spike like a fever chart. He's inside the system again, Jonah said, voice tense. He's making erratic changes, deleting clusters, moving files, accessing internal dashboards. Trying to burn evidence, Maya muttered. My stomach tightened. How long until he realizes the story is everywhere? He knows, Jonah said immediately. He opened the article 18 minutes ago. A tremor ran down my spine. Of course he did. He was watching everything. He's unraveling, Maya said. Desperate. That's when people do the most damage. Damage. To Sunspire. To the evidence. To me. If he had the chance. The closer we got, the more my pulse pounded. Each street felt sharper, brighter, like Phoenix itself knew a confrontation was coming. When we reached the side of the lab, Maya pulled into a shadowed lot and killed the engine. Here's how we do this, she said, turning to us. We enter through the side door. You stay behind me at all times unless I say otherwise. Jonah nodded, but kept typing. I'm patching into Sunspire's internal cams. Give me a sec. I leaned forward. You can access their cameras remotely? Not normally, he said. But after Evan's panic spree, he triggered an authentication loop. Everything is unstable. That gives me windows. He tapped a few keys. A feed popped up. Hallways, storage rooms, the robotics bay, the main lab. And then, there, Maya pointed. Evan was in the central lab, pacing like a caged animal. Hair disheveled, hands shaking, eyes wild. He grabbed a stack of papers, threw them on the floor, and kicked a rolling chair hard enough to slam into the wall. He's spiraling, Jonah said quietly. Look, Maya whispered. Evan suddenly stopped, stared at the computer terminal in front of him, and began typing furiously, faster than I'd ever seen him type. What is he doing? I asked. Jonah zoomed in on the feed. He's prepping a last-ditch statement, probably trying to get ahead of the narrative, or trying to spin your evidence into some conspiracy. Maya nodded. We need to move, now. The side entrance clicked open under my keycard. The three of us slipped inside, moving quietly but urgently. The cool air hit me immediately, carrying the sterile scent of metal, circuitry, and faint ozone. We crept down the hallway, the same hallway where Evan had threatened me days earlier. My stomach twisted, remembering his words. People like you don't recover from scandals. He had meant to break me, but I wasn't broken, not anymore. We moved toward the central lab. I could hear something now, papers rustling, a drawer slamming, footsteps pacing. Maya motioned for silence. We approached the doorway. Evan's voice drifted out, muttering, frantic. They won't believe her. They won't. This isn't my fault. This is saving the company. She doesn't understand the pressure. My heart stuttered. He wasn't even speaking to anyone. He was unraveling alone. Maya held up 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. She stepped into the doorway first. Evan. He spun like he'd been shot. And when he saw me behind her, something twisted in his expression. Fear, rage, betrayal. A cracked kind of madness. You, he whispered. You ruined everything. Maya kept her voice even. You ruined yourself. Evan pointed at me, his hand trembling. She did this. She set me up. She made everyone think. I didn't have to make anyone think anything, I said. The evidence speaks for itself. He laughed, a sharp, broken sound. Oh, the evidence. Your little journalist friends? Your hacked-together lies? Jonah stepped forward. Actually, it's digital forensics, and the only lies in the system were yours. Evan glared at him. Who are you? Someone with integrity, Jonah said. Evan slammed his hand on the table. You think anyone will believe this? Investors rely on me. The company relies on me. Without me, Sunspire falls apart. Maya crossed her arms. Sunspire is already falling apart because you set it on fire. He smashed a cup off the table, shards scattering. How dare you? I built this place. I made it what it is. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. No, I said. We built it. Together. And you decided that wasn't enough. You wanted the credit, the spotlight, the fame. So you stole what wasn't yours. His eyes hardened. You should have stayed quiet, he hissed. I'm done being quiet, I said. The air crackled with tension. Evan's face twisted. This isn't over, Sera. It is, Maya said firmly. You're finished. Who's going to stop me? He snapped. You? No, Maya said. But she lifted her phone. And neither will security. She pressed a button. A ringtone echoed down the hallway. Evan froze. What did you do? Maya's voice was calm, cold, final. I called Sunspire's board directly. They saw the evidence. They know you falsified data, tampered with logs, and attempted to frame your colleague. They're on their way to secure the building. Evan went pale. His voice cracked. You destroyed me. I stepped closer, my voice quiet but steady. No, Evan, you destroyed yourself. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. He just stared, like the world had slipped out from under him. Then he bolted. He ran past us, down the hallway. Maya moved as if to go after him, but Jonah grabbed her arm. Let him go, Jonah said. Security will catch him outside. We listened as his footsteps faded into the distance. A long, shuddering breath escaped my chest. The confrontation was over, but the fallout, that was just beginning. We remained in the central lab, each of us quiet in our own thoughts. After a minute, Maya said softly, You did it. I shook my head slowly. We did it. Jonah nodded, closing his laptop. And Sunspire knows the truth now. But a strange feeling crept through me. Not relief, not victory. Something else. What happens next? I whispered. Maya met my eyes. Next, she said. You reclaim what's yours? Security arrived within minutes. First 2 officers. Then 3 board members. Then several engineers who had clearly read the article and came rushing in out of shock, anger, or both. I stood in the center of the lab, like everything around me was happening underwater. Blurred voices, hurried footsteps, the buzzing hum of confused whispers. But Maya's hand on my shoulder kept me anchored. Jonah stood at my other side, laptop clutched to his chest like a shield. A security officer approached. Miss Maddox? We've secured Mr. Rhodes. He's being escorted off the property. For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. Relief? Justice? Sadness? Vindication? Maybe all of them at once. Maybe none. I finally exhaled. Thank you, I said, and my voice didn't shake. The board members pulled me aside into the glass conference room, the same one Evan had often used to pitch overconfident dreams. Now it felt different. Colder, emptier, honest. Seraphine, one of the board members began, a stern woman with silver rings and tired eyes. We reviewed the investigative report. What happened is unacceptable. You were wronged. Hearing it out loud loosened something tight in my chest. We want to formally apologize, another board member said. To think this was happening under our watch. I understand, I interrupted softly. I just want the truth known. It is, the woman said. And more importantly, everyone knows you were the rightful innovator. They looked at each other. Then the first board member cleared her throat. As of this morning, Sunspire is halting all MK4 activity. We will issue a public statement acknowledging your authorship of the Helion MK3 breakthrough. My breath caught. And we would like to offer you a position on the Innovation Steering Board. Another added. Leadership? Direction? Oversight? I blinked. You're offering me a leadership role? You built the foundation, he said. We want you to help rebuild the future. For a long moment, I simply stood there, heart pounding with a dozen conflicted emotions. Finally, I asked, what happens to Evan? He's terminated immediately. And after the evidence you provided? The woman folded her hands. He'll face legal consequences. The courts can take it from here. I nodded slowly. It was justice, not revenge, justice. When the meeting ended, the first rays of bright morning light spilled through the warehouse windows. The lab felt different. Hollow, but hopeful. Jonah was outside the conference room when I stepped out. How'd it go? He asked. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Instead, I just let out a breath that seemed to lift 2 years of weight off my shoulders. Maya stepped beside him. They recognized you, didn't they? I nodded. A slow smile spread across her face. Good, she whispered. The world needs to hear voices like yours. I swallowed, emotion burning behind my ribs. You two helped me get here. I couldn't have done this alone. Jonah waved a hand dismissively. Please? You did the terrifying parts. I just typed really fast. Maya smirked. And I just pointed the flashlight at the truth. No, I said firmly. You both gave me my voice back. Maya's expression softened. You always had it, Sera. You just needed someone to remind you. We packed up our things and stepped out of the lab. Sunlight washed over us. Clean, warm, unfiltered. I looked at Sunspire's sign, shimmering faintly in the Arizona heat. A place that had been my dream. And my nightmare. Are you going to stay? Jonah asked. At Sunspire? I took a long breath. Maybe, I said honestly, but on my terms. Maya crossed her arms. And if you don't stay, I smiled, then I'll build something of my own. They both grinned. Maya unlocked her car. Whatever you choose, you'll have protection now, and allies, and a whole community watching this unfold. Jonah nodded eagerly. The story is trending. Investors are talking. Universities are sharing the case as a warning lesson. I let my shoulders loosen. For the first time in months, the future didn't feel like a dark hallway. It felt wide, bright, open. As they drove me home, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the anonymous number. But this time, it wasn't a warning. Well done. You saved more than your career. Be proud. I stared at the words, heart swelling. Maya peeked over. Same anonymous friend? Yeah. Still no idea who it is? I shook my head. Maybe someone on the inside. Someone who saw too much. Or someone who believed in you, Maya suggested. Maybe. Maybe that was enough. I put the phone down and watched the city slide by. The desert, the skyline, the early morning light breaking against the mountains. Everything looked clearer, stronger, different. When we reached my apartment, Maya stopped the car. You okay to go in? She asked. I nodded. One question, Jonah said before I opened the door. What happens now? I smiled softly. Now? I said. I start over. I stepped out into the bright morning. Heat shimmered across the asphalt. My shadows stretched long and thin behind me, but for once they didn't feel heavy. I looked up at the sun. The same sun that powered my work. The same sun Evan tried to steal from me. The same sun that rose today like a promise. A promise that truth matters. A promise that the quiet engineer can fight back. A promise that I could build something new, stronger, brighter, and mine. I walked toward my door, feeling lighter than I had in years. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning.